Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday, which means we have another edition of the MSP Initiative Live. Hope everyone is doing well today. And again, just some normal housekeeping that we do at the beginning of every call. First one is Channel Strong Tour. So we're currently midway through Channel Strong Tour Northeast. Today we'll be in Seabrook, New Hampshire, out by the water. So if you happen to be in that area or willing to take a little drive, love to see you there if you're an MSP. Then you see the rest of the week here, Newton, Massachusetts, Hartford, Connecticut, and we end our tour for the month in White Plains, New York. So if you happen to be at any of these stops, definitely raise your hand. So go to this page under mspinitiative.com, Channel Strong on the upper menu, and you scroll all the way down to the bottom. Go ahead and just ask for an invite. If you're an MSP, you will get one. And the other thing that's worth mentioning, again, is our monthly giveaways. And all you got to do is submit your name to play. If you don't play, you can't win. So our 10 prizes for the month. We're on day 7 here with Axient. But actually, all the prizes are up for grabs. So kind of just pull names out of the hat at the end of the 10-day kind of window. So please go ahead and throw your name in the hat. And you can see you have 10 chances to win. It's pretty good odds, actually. So here we are on another Tuesday. And all of my cohorts are on the bus. So they're traveling around the highways. So I see we have a few people on here. Darren, Keith, and Walter. So Darren, Keith, and Walter, I'm going to allow you guys to jump in and we'll just have a talk if you guys are interested. But the first one I want to bring up, and I'm mute if you guys want to chime in, is so earlier last week, we got news that Kaseya came out with a universal decryptor for anyone. Like, keep in mind, it was like 3.5 weeks after the damage was done. And they put out a universal decryptor nonetheless. So I guess I appreciate that effort, right? For anyone that was still trying to get through that process. But then another shoe dropped, which was interesting. You had to sign an NDA in order to get the decryptor, which then kind of signaled this flag that, well, did they pay for a ransom then? Like, how did this come about? And then this morning or yesterday morning, they came out with oh, no, we didn't pay. We didn't pay anything. So I don't know what to believe. I know, Darren, you're very, very pointed.
I should probably just not say anything. I think it's probably better. Just,
I don't know. I don't know who to believe, but
I mean, the NDA part is you could obviously see. I mean, would you expect anything less from them?
I mean,
I'm surprised you didn't have to sign a contract, like a 9-year contract for, for new products.
Any good lawyer or legal consultant or insurance company person who's trying to limit liability would obviously do something like this, right? I mean, that's just, the people in between, I hope. It just seems like a double whammy, right? You already had a problem. Your customers have been hit. You've been down. You've probably taken a reputation hit. And then probably too far after it being able to be even useful, they come out with this decryptor. Hopefully everybody's back to a workable point now, a month in or whatever it is. And then the NDA, right, to get the decryptor. It just, the whole thing seems not great is probably the best way to say it. And obviously there's been hundreds of conversations about what everybody's doing, right? Everybody's going back and knocking the doors down their vendors saying, what are you doing? How are you protecting us? Like, why am I still using your product? A bunch of conversation came out about, do you even need an RMM anymore in 2021?
So I think it brings up a different point. Well, first of all, signing an NDA leads me to believe there was some type of negotiation, whether they paid ransom or they paid him a consulting fee, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. I'm not a Kaseya user. We use IT Glue. I've never had any of the billing nightmares people talk about. So I'm kind of neutral on that. But I think it brings up a better point is Are we truly going to be technology people or resellers? And we've talked about this before. You know, regardless of what anyone, I don't want to put down any MSP that may be on the call, but if I would venture to say that if you had properly been monitoring your logs, you would have seen something fishy going on as this was being deployed. And I think that brings us up into something that, as you know, we do forensic audits. And I'd say almost 100% of the time we walk in, I'd say, your firewall's been telling you for like 3 months you have a problem. Have you ever opened the logs? Do you run syslog all day long? And so I think it has more to do with, do we need an RMM, and is Kaseya good or bad, which I don't have an opinion on, I've never used it, as to how we're going to overall monitor and bring up some standards. And really understand, you know, standby programs. And I think what occurs is, you know, people just, they have disaster recovery. They think, I put a BDR, that's disaster recovery, over. And you and I've talked about that before.
Yeah.
No, that's just a small piece of it.
Yeah.
If you had the right type of planning, your customers would have been up and running. But no, not maybe not with computers, but and they'd still be mad, but at least you would have added a business value.
So let me throw this out because Brent joined the call a little bit. So Brent, we're talking about, I've added everybody today to be able to chat, so you can actually unmute and talk if you want. But we're talking about, hey, Kaseya came out with a decryptor, like a little bit after probably one of the useful period would have been. And then to get to decryptor, they said that you needed to sign an NDA. And then like that created this concept that, well, wait a minute, did they pay this ransom in order to get these decryption tools? And then they came out and said, no, we did not pay the ransom. So we're kind of going through this whole thought strategy of, well, number one, I mean, anyone that waited 3 or 4 weeks to hope and pray for a decryptor when they probably wouldn't have had any forewarning, if I had to guess, probably wasn't in a good place. And I don't think many people would have waited that long. And two, would you, being in that position, have signed an NDA to get a copy of the decryption tool? He said, internet's down, phone is spotty. No worries, Brent. Come back. Yeah, feel free to jump in once you're in a better place. So let me. I
wish Brad was on here, because I'd say that sure sounds to me like you're signing an agreement under duress, which is unenforceable.
Yeah, especially if that, and again, we're all speculating here. I haven't seen it. I don't know if you have, but if the NDA limits liability, I gotta assume that would be hard to enforce.
If they're saying they didn't pay, and I have to leave in 4 minutes here, but anyway, if they're saying they didn't pay, then what option, what do we think happened? And maybe something to do with the NDA. I don't know. I mean, because was it some type of intervention that they'll tell you about, but they don't want anybody else knowing about? Like, by the way,
one would assume that if law enforcement, the federal government, some agency was able to assist in bailing everybody out, they would have advertised that on every billboard they could have. But I'm not sure that that's what happened here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting thought to what really happened. But
the government's position definitely is don't pay ransoms, because it just makes it harder and continues the whole thing, right?
I'm not talking about paying. I'm talking about some other type of action.
No, I get it. My point is, if they were able to successfully prove the idea, hey, we got you, you don't need to go down that road, we have other ways, I would hope that they would come out and take a little bit of credit, right? But again, all speculation, have no idea. But it's needless to say, this is making the headlines, right? We've talked about this making the headlines before, but I've seen Wall Street Journal article, I've seen a Washington Post, I've seen CNN, whether you like these outlets or not. I mean, this has now hit the mainstream, and that starts to beg a question on, where do you go like the article that came out, and I'm going to dig it back up, was, hey, the ransomware events happen. Now here come the lawsuits, right? And yeah, this probably would have been a great session to bring Brad on, but Brad Gross, legal attorney extraordinaire, like, can you get in on a class action when you never paid Kaseya directly, right? Like, wouldn't you have to sue the person that you paid first and then have them turn around and sue their upstream vendor because you have to like follow the financial kind of trail there? It's a little bit gray. And not to get super negative, but if your end customer's already talking about jumping on some sort of lawsuit, number one, they're probably not in a good place with you, and two, probably not in a place where your customer is going to stick around for a long haul, I would think. But
I'm not sure. And of course, I'm not an attorney. I did used to watch Madlock, so I don't know how well that gets me qualified. I was involved in a major lawsuit with a terrorist attack.
okay.
And many of the people and attorneys said, we thought we did well. I know that's self-serving. We treated our customers well, and we treated our clients very well and got them counseling. We were dropped from all the lawsuits. The County of San Bernardino still is. However, the point is, at the beginning, they all said, we got to include everybody. And so, we had to go in there and say why we didn't think we were responsible, and the plaintiffs agreed with us, and there was a name for it. We were dismissed off the lawsuit, but that's not what attorneys call it. Attorneys make up, new phrases so that you could get the big bucks, but they called it something, some kind of enjoiner or something. So, but we were told in those type of actions, you cannot exclude people with or without prejudice. So I would imagine the MSPs are getting sued. And I don't even, I'd be interesting to ask Brad, is Kaseya liable?
Yeah.
Not do we think Kaseya is liable, but is Kaseya liable legally?
Yeah, I mean, the argument's going to be made that, hey, the bad guys are the guys that created the harm, right? It's not like Kaseya put out some, bad patch and it blew up everybody's system.
Yeah.
But I guess this comes back to what we've had past sessions before. Like, what is the reasonable standard of care or reasonable expected whatever, right?
Yeah.
The word reasonable is a little bit gray.
I think a good example is if you leave your car unlocked with the keys in it and you admit that to the insurance company,
they're not going to cover the claim.
Yeah, well, I mean, but essentially, the keys were in the car here,
Yeah.
but so
Yeah, not fun. Brent says, no opportunity to make a political statement is lost with the congressman. Don't disagree with you, Brad or Brent. Don't disagree with you at all. Walter comes in and says, "Oh yeah, they definitely did." So a lot of people will agree with you, Walt. I mean, there's no lack of commentary on the internet for sure. Here's another one that popped up today in just a conversation I had earlier today. So it sounds like the government is leaning back towards reinforcement of mask policies, and I'm sure after that is going to be, hey, we're going back into the fall and winter time again. Do you start to get the feeling that they're going to reimpose some sort of lockdown or reinforce social distancing, vaccine or not? And let's say they do. Let's say come September, masks and social distancing and lockdowns come back again. Would that preclude you from getting on a plane and going to a DataCon, for example, or driving in your car and going to a local regional thing, right? Like, does that movement change your opinion on where you're willing to go?
Well, for me, I had COVID. I have the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
I was very lucky. All I got was tired and a little bit of cough. I mean, I didn't have, like some people describe. I'm old. I'm fat. I'm diabetic. And so I would go. With all that said, I would go because I'm thinking like, I just don't want to be held terrorist. I think it's going to bring up a whole ugly political talk about, open borders while we're locking us down. And I'm not thoroughly convinced that lockdowns had any value. you look at, and I read, I'm not a doctor. I have a PhD in computer science, but I'm not a medical doctor. But the more I look at the cases and you look at the relative studies in lockdown versus not lockdown, you don't see a huge slope. So no, I would still go. I quote Dr. Fauci before he quoted himself, which said that improper use of PPP is more dangerous than any use at all. That's a white paper he wrote and reinforced 5 times in his career.
You won't see that talked about much. It's very funny how that's just kind of hidden.
I walked into a UPS store the other day and they had like a little PPP, masks and hand sanitizer or whatever. And on the actual packaging for the mask, it says only good for 4 to 6 hours of use.
Yeah, that's what I tell people over and over again. I said, my first job was a paramedic and I wanted to become a doctor, so it interests me. On a throwaway mask, they're good for 3 to 4 hours, or the first time you cough or get it wet. I know people that keep the mask in their car, and I'm guilty, not cute, and use it for 10 weeks, until it smells so bad you can't have it on your face.
Yeah.
At minimum, you're supposed to change it every day. And I don't think cloth masks are the same thing. And I know people use that cloth mask and the urination, if someone peed on your leg and you go, that is the perfect one. You're proving my point. If someone peed on my leg and I was naked, it dries. If I'm wearing pants, it retains it against my leg for a longer period.
Right.
So the improper use of the mask, and then you see them thrown, I've seen them left in shopping carts, which is a little disgusting, whether or not COVID was around or not. Mm-hmm. You see them littered on the ground.
I've never seen proper handling of a mask ever, basically, but I have to run. This is a good conversation. Probably good. I'm going to leave though. Goodbye.
Tell everyone to say hi. Goodbye.
Yeah, well, bye.
Yeah.
All right. So, Walt chimes in and Brent says he doesn't. I'm not sure he agrees. Right. So I think he's talking about the whole mask and lockdown thing. And then another one, Walt says, if I went from client to client because they needed help, I would support my local businesses during this time. I will keep moving around, living my life. I will wear a mask and I will keep my distance, but I'm not going to stop living my life for this. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. I mean, I think we've been down this road before. I'm just concerned with if the federal government and the state government start adopting this policy again. Like the hotels are going to start having to go down that road, just, follow the rules. The events are going to be restricted, right? Like it becomes very difficult for you to actually have many people inside based on that scenario, right?
And by whoever disagreed, I wholeheartedly support their disagreement. I mean, if you want to wear a mask, you want to be locked down, you want to require people around you to be masked, I completely support that. If I knew that guy and I walked in his office and put on a mask, I would. So
everybody has a different situation for sure.
Yeah, I'm going. So I think that's the freedom of our speech and medical device. But anyway, I go to your point is lockdowns are regressive.
Mm-hmm.
And so at one point, the unemployment bonus is going to end.
September, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think they're very regressive. I mean, us that make more money, we can work from home. We've done that. We have more survive. And so the recovery of those businesses is what concerns me. And so I worry more not about myself because I've always worked from home and I can work remote. I worry more about people lower on the income schedule. Another lockdown in hospitality will devastate that industry.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look how many drive around your town and look how many restaurants are gone forever.
Oh, I mean, the restaurant, the food and beverage, entertainment business, hospitality. I mean, they're nowhere near recovery. I don't think so. And quite frankly, I think another one would not be good. I mean, people who did finally hang on to that whole period, I'm not sure they come back from that in those circles. Brent comes back and follows up with your point. He says, I do not want it, but as soon as mask wearing was stopped, the numbers went up. Where is the question? I would hope that the idea is that the vaccine should have helped, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, first of all, you had an influx of undocumented, unvaccinated, unmasked. And they've been shipped all over the country, number one. I disagree with his number analysis, but him and I could debate that. I mean, he's entitled to that, as I've said. You look at the concentration of the people that have been infected and have had the most causes, deaths and serious deaths. That was deliberate, convalescent homes, we concentrated those. So I don't think, you could sit there and say, well, why did countries that never did masks not have the spikes? And there's a whole lot of argument there. And of course, again, he wants to protect himself and his family. I respect that. If he walked into my office and said, put on a mask, I'd put it on.
Yeah.
So,
he says, look at Los Angeles. How do you argue with the numbers? Los Angeles has been a little bit of a quagmire, right? They've been one where they've been the most locked down for the longest amount of time, yet their number, I don't know. It's weird. I can't really.
Their numbers never really, and look at, he brings up a great point. I'm involved with the Nehemiah Project LA, which is aged out foster youth, but also homeless. The increase of, again, untested, unvaccinated concentration shipped to Los Angeles is huge. It's huge. They say over in the last 4 or 5 months, over 100,000.
That's crazy.
So what's the cause? Who knows?
Yeah.
If masks, if the government believed in the masks, they'd be handing them out at the border.
Yeah, I mean,
and Joe Biden was fondling a young boy just the other day without a mask. The kid had a mask on, Biden didn't. The Democrats on a plane from Texas.
Yeah, that didn't put a good message out there. So Brent says numbers are going down until mask removal. Homeless and undocumented have not changed. Well, some
undocumented has changed since January. He's ignoring that's definitely a fact. That's the amount of increases of undocumented that are being shipped around the country has dramatically increased.
Yeah, well, it's probably
homelessness. And by the way, he's talking to a person on the governor's homelessness task force. That's increased at records level since January. And I am appointed by a liberal Democratic governor.
Flipping to the next topic. Flipping to the next topic. He said baloney, by the way. So interestingly enough, like I think people almost forgot that the Olympics were happening. It was supposed to be the 2020 Olympics. Obviously, we know what happened there. They're in Japan. They're happening pretty much overnight, almost, right? Because of the time differential. Anybody actually watching? Anybody?
I tried. And this isn't political. I tried it with the NBA. I watched it after, it has nothing to do with NFL thing. I cannot get into no people in the stand sports.
That's tough, yeah.
It looked like it, especially, like the new format for the gymnastics. My kids are watching. I tried to watch it, and you're going like, it wasn't really a competition. We were on the floor, Russia, China. It wasn't that interchange. It just lacked something for me. Maybe some other sport will catch on.
Yeah, very weird to watch it for sure, especially since we saw it. But the ratings are down like 33%, or at least there were for like the opening of the Olympics, which probably doesn't bode well for the rest. It's just very intriguing that people aren't watching sports like they used to, for whatever it's worth.
I feel sorry for the athletes. I mean, having taken a team to the World Games or the Special Olympics in Korea a few years ago, walking in there and hearing the crowd it's a rush. And I wasn't even an athlete. I was just a coach. I feel bad for them missing that, because that was, I don't know. I think you're an entertainer when you're an athlete, and that's part of what you do.
100%. Walt says, nope, never really watched in the past either. Same. My wife loves the swimming, and I guess the gymnastics. But I definitely don't watch. Moving on to
I'll watch the Cowboys this year.
oh, listen,
I'm going to training camp.
well, I'm going to training camp up here. Well, maybe we'll have
Yeah, but you're going to a a Russian sponsored training. I'm going to America's team.
okay. Well, the Eagles must be sponsored by Russia.
Yeah.
So there's this push now going on, which really does kind of touch in the technology realm of right to repair. For some reason, there was this big hubbub around John Deere equipment and how you couldn't repair it unless you were authorized, and you couldn't get parts, and it was like restrictive. I had no idea this was a thing, but I guess in the farming and all that other community, of course, iPhones and stuff like that, right? I mean, that's stuff that everyday people use, and obviously some of their stuff's restrictive. Although you can go to a lot of stores and try and fix your screen, or maybe replace your battery. What's your opinion on right to repair, right? I mean, does everybody understand what that bill is about?
No, I haven't read it.
Yeah, so basically what they're saying is, regardless of what the manufacturer says, regardless of how the design of the solution is, you should have the option to repair the device outside of the manufacturer directly. Kind of like if you bought a car from the dealership, you should be able to go to your own mechanic kind of thing. So be interesting to see how that affects technology space. Although we've always been repairing things in our realm, right? I mean, fixing, like, it'd almost be like you buying an iPad or a Microsoft Surface device, where you can't really take it apart and add more memory or replace a chip because it's been designed that basically either going to replace it or you're not going to use it at all. Walk comes back and says, well, if it's under warranty, it should be fixed by an authorized repair person. Nope. But I mean, at that point, it should be paid for and covered by the warranty for sure, right? Like, no reason to put your own effort out there if it's going to be done by somebody else. Keith?
I'm just a big free enterprise freedom guy. I think you should have the choice to use whoever you have confidence in. Sure,
I agree, 100%. Well, we'll see if that makes it along. I know last time we talked about a little bit. I don't know how far we got. We talked about in the same week that right to repair bill came out was the government saying by executive order, non-competes should not be in the workplace, or at least at the government level. I don't know if that's actually been processed yet. I know that this was just at the federal government level, not in like standard enterprise business, small business. Is anybody actually actively utilizing non-competes at this point? I mean, it seems like they're very hard to enforce. It's different than a non-solicitation. It seems to me that it's becoming almost standard practice to put into your agreements, hey, if you do hire one of my employees away, that you have to pay. But instead of just saying, don't do it, and then when they do it, what do? You just put the number right into your agreement so that if it happens, it's like, hey, well, you already agreed to pay this price. Here's the invoice. Let me know when I'm going to get paid. What do you think about that, Keith?
First of all, I think 80% of what's put in contracts is just because someone has to fill space. In California, non-competes have long been non-enforceable.
I think somebody told me once there was one scenario where it was enforceable. Like if you sold your business to somebody else and you were the selling owner, there was a period of time where they could enforce maybe 6 months to a year, right? A non-compete in that scenario, but that was it in California.
Yeah, if you're receiving compensation, I think basically, and again, I'm not an attorney, but what I read was if you are receiving compensation for the non-compete, then it is enforceable. But when they put non-competes in employee contracts that doesn't pay you additional money not to compete in the future, that's problematic in California.
Yeah, for sure. And it'll be interesting to see. Usually, like you said, there's some sort of compensation tied to that. It'll be interesting to see how that 'cause in technology space, I mean, it's, like that is something that's definitely talked about, especially in agreements. It's spelled out. Like you don't want your employees to go work for your customers. You don't want your customers to go hire your employees. So you can obviously run a business. Right? So it'd be interesting to see how that matriculates through. So there's been a bunch of announcements around how the big four, right, MSP land are adjusting to Enable broke off from SolarWinds. Obviously, Datto is kind of their own bubble. You have ConnectWise and they're kind of group of companies, and then obviously so it'd be interesting to see. Keith, I'm gonna mute you for a second just because a lot of background noise. Feel free to unmute when you want to talk. But what is your feeling on the kind of the SaaS model where they raise pricing on existing accounts, but then come out with a free tier for people who aren't already transacting, right? Like this just happened this week. ConnectWise with their BrightGauge account service solution. BrightGauge is kind of like that multi product dashboard kind of intelligence, kind of take all data from multiple systems and be able to kind of report off of that stuff. So they took their existing plans and they raised their price, but then they kind of came out with this freebie, like watered down model for for everyone else. So I know that happens a lot. Would love to hear your opinion. Keith, feel free to jump back in. Well, hopefully the audio.
I had a friend that used to switch between DirecTV and whatever the other one was, over and the cable.
Dish, yeah.
Always Dish between all the offers. He just switched to take his 90 days or whatever. Yeah. I have found that in the past, when something gets offered for free, that to new customers, you usually can negotiate it for free if you're pretty good at, calmly negotiating.
Calmly negotiating. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no one wants to negotiate with the terrorists, but I mean, you call them up and say, "Hey, I'll just go to someone else offering free."
Yeah.
And I've gotten other, whatever you want to call concessions when they've offered something free. But I get it. They're running. I mean, at some point you're paying, hopefully you've got decent, a decent product.
Yeah. I mean, but do you think that model would work at not at the vendor to the MSP level, but at the IT service provider level, MSP to their end customer, right? Like, or is that really more of a software only type play in terms of how you package and bundle?
I have always violently opposed free. When people would talk about free network assessment, I don't think anything's free. In fact, even when you give your customer good customer time, I always document all the hours, and say, hey, wait, I think there's nothing free. I mean, when they talk about free school, I go, did you get teachers to work for free? There's nothing free. It's subsidized somewhere. Just my opinion.
100%. 100%. I mean, it's definitely something to consider. I mean, again, we see this in regular everyday life, right? Buy one, get one, or sign up for this and we give you a little bit of time free, right? I think somebody had mentioned one of the offers that came out of Kaseya's wheelhouse, even after the security thing, was, hey, sign up for a 4-year deal. We'll give you 1 year free, right? Meaning it's a 4-year deal, but they won't bill you until after year 1.
Yeah, that's probably going to work for them.
I don't know if it is going to work for them, but they're surely trying.
Yeah.
Hey, Frank, you came on a little bit later, but kind of open forum style, right? So you could always unmute and chime in. So feel free to pitch your 2 cents in as we're going through some more topics. But Well, it'll be interesting to see if those types of tricks work, right? Hey, sign a 5-year deal. We'll give you 1 year free. Won't start billing you until a year in. Especially if we go back down into some sort of limited or full lockdown, right? Like we were talking about earlier, going into the wintertime. It would be interesting to see if that holds, right? I guess I would be a little bit concerned if I offered that to somebody and they actually didn't make it, right? And their business wasn't around to pay for years 2, 3, 4, and 5. But I guess Brent says, I'll gladly pay you on Tuesday for a hamburger today. Yeah, I hear you, Brent. I would love to see McDonald's try that. Or, hey, my favorite, In-N-Out. But Keith, you're much more local to that than I am.
That's right.
That's my jam. Darren, who was on earlier, he's Mr. Chick-fil-A. I'm Chick-fil-A Junior, right? He kind of beats me in the Chick-fil-A purchasing somehow. But anywhere where I'm in it, an In-N-Out vicinity, I take a trip and make sure I check that box because I don't get it often. For sure. So interesting kind of current event. So Japan broke the internet transfer speed, which was last broken in 2020. Without Googling, anyone want to take a guess on what the fastest internet transfer speed is or has been achieved? Anyone? Any guess? I know like you can get 1 gig internet or 10 gig internet. A little bit higher than that. Anyone want to take a stab?
Mm-mm.
Brent says
heard.
400 gigs. It's a little bit higher. Keith, what do you think?
I'd say, well, since he made the first guess higher, 500. Are we playing prices right?
This is like Price is Right. 401. 401. 319 terabits.
Oh, so I won.
Right. Price is Right rules, you won, right? Because you were
yeah. Wasn't close, but I won on Price is Right rules.
Yeah. I did take a stab at Price is Right, by the way. Back in the day. I apparently I didn't grasp the rules until after I was on the show. But yes, I got a lot of $1 jammed against me, needless to say. And I was on the entire show on contestants row. So yes, I was. Yeah. Yep. I got the jam. I did. It's fun trivia though. Absolutely fun trivia. Let me ask you this. How often do you replace yourself? My aunt did Truth or Consequences. That's cool, Brent. I was going to try Deal or No Deal, but you probably didn't know this. And you can only be on 3 game shows your entire life. At least in the United States, you can. So if like I was on Price is Right, and I was like, oh, let me go try Deal or No Deal. It's over here on the other side of the studio. You could lose 2 out of 3 in 1 day. So just keep that in mind. There is a limit. So how often are people changing their cell phones, right? I know usually the big carriers try and lock you up into like a 2-year device payment plan or something like that. Do you guys see subscription as a service trying to trickle up in terms of, some of this like computers, cell phones, that kind of stuff? Even for your like Microsoft now offers Surface as a subscription. Did you know that?
Jay McBain told me there's an Apple that you pay, and it wasn't much more than leasing your phone from the phone company, and you just get a new iPhone every time someone's released.
Yep. They have their own it's like the platinum plan with Apple, right? Every time they come out the new one, you get the next one.
Yeah. You just have to turn yours in good condition, but you can add Apple Care to it to cover any breaks.
Yep, exactly. Although Apple Care doesn't cover loss or stolen, right?
I don't know. I think it covers 1 break a year. I forgot the deal, but it was
yeah. Like it does cover the break, but if you lose if you lose your phone or your phone was stolen, that Apple Care doesn't really do anything.
Huh.
Yeah. Walt is like, my phone is with me until it dies. Well, what are you on, iPhone 6? I mean, if you take care of your phone, it can last for quite some time, my friend. Brent says, I'm looking forward to replacing my S6. S6, my Lord, Brent. You're way behind. I'm surprised that thing still installs apps. All right. Well, it's starting to tick back up, right? I mean, not just at the business level, but the consumer level, right? Everything as a service. Actually, did you know that I know specifically because it was AT&T, but AT&T with the Walt says I'm on a Note 10 Ultra. Well, that's a little bit better than the S6. Do you know, like with if you get like the insurance, policy, the Assuring insurance policy, like through AT&T, stuff like that, they now offer you to replace one personal device a year that could be lost or stolen. So
Huh.
like, let's say you had your laptop in your car and somebody stole it. Even though that wasn't purchased through the cell phone company, you can still claim one per year on the cell phone insurance plan. So I know that doesn't quite touch the business side, but something to consider, right? When you're factoring all of your devices. On the same, gotta go. Somebody stole my laptop. Hopefully not while you're using it. On the same front, has anybody seen the Best Buy beta program? So basically how that works is you pay $200 a year, and then you get 2 years of Best Buy Geek, when you buy something from Best Buy, you can get a replacement plan, accidental protection plan, whatever. You get 2 years of accidental protection on any new device purchased after you've enrolled into the beta program. Obviously, you would need to continue the beta program every year to keep that going, right? So if it's $200 a year, but you buy a lot of stuff from Best Buy, it would all be covered under a 2-year kind of advanced replacement kind of warranty. Thoughts about, like, that's interesting, right? So they're trying to go on their subscription-based model for support and warranty rather than you buying one at a time. What do you think about that, Keith?
I wouldn't trust a Geek Squad to carry a box to my car.
I didn't say Geek Squad. I'm saying the
Yeah.
replacement plan, right? Like,
Yeah.
call it Geek Squad because that's their branding, but like,
No, I know. I just found a chance to be sarcastic.
yeah.
No, I think that, when I was younger, I used to want to get the latest and greatest. Now that I'm old, I'm going like, I just don't want to transfer all my contacts. What a whiny little, but it's like that. I'm going like, my screen's a little bit cracked. I go, it's not so bad.
Got to get that replacement plan.
Yeah. Well, I just don't want to go through the headache.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
I totally understand. I mean, but who wants a cracked screen?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody wants to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? Because for the people that, buy stuff on the fly Best Buy, right? I mean, $200 a year doesn't really sound like a lot of money, right?
Right. No, it doesn't.
You get a two-year replacement, kind of insurance policy on that. It's not bad. I don't know. But it's definitely like that model. I mean, we've seen it with even the movie theaters now, right? I mean, yes, the movie theaters are still around. And before the pandemic, they were just coming out with, hey, pay a monthly fee and then you can see as many movies as you want, kind of.
Yeah.
Until we tell you that movie is restricted, right? But yes, same strategy. Question is, how many movies are they coming out with, and is it worth the plan, right? So kind of following that as a service model that we're all kind of playing in now.
Yeah, I remember that someone did come out with that. Go see all the movies for a subscription.
Yeah, there was like the original company that did, but then the actual movie theaters themselves started doing that same subscription plan themselves. Walt says, haven't bought from Best Buy in years. Well, until you put an order through distribution and they told you, oh, it'll be shipped out 6 months later. Probably not good when you get that message. It's funny. I just had it pop up on my screen. I'm a big Surface guy. I love the Surface line of products. So they just leaked out the Surface Duo 2 specs. They're kind of foldable smartphone device. Did anyone ever check that out when that first came out?
No.
No, just didn't. You're like, Microsoft and cell phones. Yeah, no, sorry, that didn't work out. So let's not do that again. Walt says, true. but bad Blockbuster didn't come up with a subscription. They would have been Netflix, a little large for me. Yeah. Okay. So on the first topic, go to Netflix. I know this is ironic. They have a documentary on the last Blockbuster. It's in Bend, Oregon. And when you watch that last Blockbuster documentary, and by the way, if anybody, after you watch it, if anybody wants to take a road trip, let me know. Probably go out and check that place out. But during that documentary, they had like the CFO of Blockbuster before they went under. They were actually neck and neck with Netflix. They were.
Yeah.
They actually had turned it around, and then the rug got pulled out from underneath of them. So not gonna blow the whistle on, or not blow the whistle, but burst the bubble on it. But you should go and watch it. I think it's like an hour and a half. Definitely check it out. Totally. I think you'll be surprised. You'll come back here and say, dude, I watched that. And like, I had no clue. They actually made it work. But they had over 5,000 locations, and now they're down to one. Bend, Oregon. I don't know. Keith, you want to take a trip to Bend?
Yeah, I watched that special, and it's one of those network shows you go, why am I watching this? And you go, hey, it ain't so bad. It was kind of interesting. And I remember the guy who was like the biggest Blockbuster fan, in the world. You go, yeah, poor guy.
I mean, it's like, I didn't realize that Dish Network bought the rights to Blockbuster, and like, they're the ones that have to like renew that store's, kind of, plan every year. So
Yeah, they're the ones that really got hosed.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you go like, talk about someone selling out at the right point in time.
100%. I don't want to ruin it. Go back and watch it.
Yeah.
By the way, Brent says he wants to go to Bend, Oregon to see the last Blockbuster. So maybe we'll have to drive the bus that way. We'll throw you in there, Brent.
I wonder if that lady still works there.
I believe she is. I think she's like, her and her family run it.
Yeah.
So it could be.
There's another Blockbuster about the guy who's supposedly the best sushi guy in the world. Have you ever seen that one?
I haven't.
Okay, so it's a small place in Japan. It's kind of interesting when you have sushi there. Of course, they don't have any rolls because those are California rolls. I should have figured that out before I sat at the bar. But you don't get to order. You just order. You want 6, 8, or 10 pieces. The chef gives you, what is the best fish. So when I went there with Team USA, we stopped in Japan first to tour the military bases. I said, let's go to the sushi place. It was a Blockbuster Video. They all went to McDonald's. I had sushi alone, but yeah, I just went there just because I saw the Netflix video.
McDonald's in Japan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. I've gone to McDonald's in the UK. I've gone to McDonald's in Australia, but I've not gone to Japan, and so I've not gone to McDonald's in Japan.
Yeah.
So I missed it. I don't know if anybody caught it yesterday, I believe it was. The cyber call, right? Which is like Andrew Morgan and a bunch of other people. They had a independent cyber insurance guy pop on. I don't think it was Tech Rug. I think it was somebody else. And apparently there's this huge impending change about to come down from the insurance companies on all these cyber plans. I guess it was inevitable, but I didn't have a chance to catch up if anyone on this call did. I maybe have to go back and check it out. I need to figure out what's coming, because I got to think that I've heard travelers, and I specifically the travelers was saying, if you don't have MFA enabled, we're going to drop your cyber coverage. I don't know how they're going to go back and validate that other than have everybody sign a document saying, yes, it's on, but I got to think more is coming. I don't know if anybody's heard what that is. I'm going to go back and try and watch it, but I guess how does the, and we talked about this a little bit last time, how does the insurance policy cover the supply chain attack, right? I mean, it's a really hard thing for them. I mean, I assume they're just going to jack the price.
Yeah, and at some point, price increases are always regressive. I think it's going to get to a point where there's going to be more people at risk. cyber insurance was just starting to get some acceptability in the market, as my opinion. People were just finally saying, oh, we should get it. I mean, I think I first saw it like 5 or 6 years ago. And everyone you brought it up to said, no, 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 no. And now it's starting to get some acceptance. But with the high cost of implementation and the high premiums, now I'm having customers just say it doesn't reach my plan. Unless they're doing business and it's demanded, like quasi-government or government agencies.
Right.
I'm getting more people go, it's just too non-cost. And the payout clause, again, that's something you need Bradley Gross. When I started reading one, I'm going like, I don't know what you really pay out on. I don't know if you've looked at one, you're going like, this is okay unless this, you're going like, so if an employee makes a mistake and we get breached, which is how they occur most of the time, we don't get coverage. So you don't cover, it's like, I won't cover you for a car accident if you drive your car. And so,
but they'll cover it. But according to Darren, they'll cover it if you leave it out with the door unlocked and the keys in the ignition.
that's if it's a crappy car. Yeah, no,
I mean, it's. I definitely need to go back and just get an idea of what's coming down. But the way it sounded, and of course, everybody wants to get people to their sessions, but it sounds like it's going to be a big change. Brent says that's what I was going to say. Raise premiums. I'm sure that's coming. I'm sure that's coming in a big way. But what good is like back to Keith's point? If it's Swiss cheese, right? If policy doesn't cover anything, what's the point? Just to say that you have a piece of paper?
Yeah, if you follow like earthquake insurance in California, and it could be tornado or hurricane insurance in Florida and so on and so forth. But California did this big movement to try and get everyone to put earthquake insurance on their properties. And first of all, the premiums are huge. And the deductible is like 30% of your home value. Wow. So most people, it was like, you start going like, well, if there's a major earthquake, I will not have the funds to even pay my deductible. So the whole policy is of no value. And by the way, if California falls into the San Andreas fault, I don't think they're going to let me rebuild anyway. So, it just came to a point where it was like this great government idea that wasn't so great in implementation.
He's right. Earthquake insurance is a fiasco. Well, guys, I mean, there's flood insurance too. I mean, that obviously happens a lot more often, but that's run by the government. And like, if you're in a floodplain, I think the bank actually forces you to get flood insurance in order to do a loan. But I can tell you, most people don't have flood insurance.
Yeah, it's too expensive.
Yeah. I mean, until you have a problem, then you wish you had it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, 100%. So in the last couple of minutes here, just curious where everybody's at. Brent says, I live in a riverbed and I do not have it. Okay, well, hopefully history has been good to you there, Brent. At least over here in the East, right? Northeast, everybody has, sub pumps in their basement and, kind of like the French drainage around the bottom of their house, right? So that they can, kind of prevent water from getting into their basement, that kind of stuff. But he says 35 years, no issues. I always find it interesting when you go into like places like Arizona and like the power box is on the outside of the house. And you're just like, huh? Why? Why is that?
That's
there?
California.
Is that right? The breaker box is on the outside?
Yeah. In fact, I'm just getting solar and they normally will put the batteries and everything outside. And I said, no. Because, batteries aren't cheap.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't seem like a good idea. So wasn't there a law written where you couldn't sell your house unless you put solar on it in California?
No, that was not written. There was another one to mandate builders start. And that makes, it's always cheaper to do it from the beginning than to retrofit it. That probably makes more sense. But solar, they were doing hot water solar too. And the break-even point for me, it's going to be about 6 years. And now the big thing they're doing in California, which was pushing for solar, is now coming back and saying poor people couldn't afford solar, so we need to stop doing the buyback and the subsidies. So I guess we were saving the earth until it became socially, yeah, who knows? So we're talking about changing that.
Brent says no, new houses without solar, and then Wall comes back and says hot water heaters outside too. That's really weird.
Yeah.
Water heater outside. I feel like you're just waiting for somebody to say, "Hey, we're gonna take all these things and go to the junkyard and scrap it and get some money back." I was like, yeah, I wonder if anybody I'm sure you lock your power box if it's sitting on the outside of your house, but it just seems like a weird place for it.
I just thought, it's ugly.
Yeah.
All the conduit, because you have the smart switch, you have the sub meter. So I actually just cleared apart in the garage so they could put it in there. I go, where they wanted to put it is right where I have like a koi pond and a fire pit and outdoor kitchen. And then I'd have my big power. I go, no, let's not do that way.
Wow. One thing's for sure, solar,
Right.
if the power goes out, your house, it doesn't work like a generator, does it? Or the battery does.
It depends. If you're on a non-battery system and you're on a net agreement, which means you're selling back, the utility shuts you off because there'd be linemen working on the lines, and so you have to have at least one battery, even though if it's just a 10K battery, which isn't enough to hold you up for more than a few hours, but it'll allow your panels to keep recharging the battery and powering your house during sunlight, of course. But in California, at least, to have a .NET agreement, the utility must have access to your panel. So I have to give them a code to my garage. Plus, they have a cellular direct connection where they can make sure if I didn't get the batteries, they could shut off my solar. If with the batteries, they can make sure I'm not feeding back. They switch the smart switch to be fully self-contained. To get batteries to be off the grid, at least for my house, was $60,000 in batteries.
Wow. And how long do the batteries last?
Those are 10K batteries. I have two 510 air conditioners, and so they're very expensive.
Yeah,
and they're warranted for 10 years to 70 to 80%, depending on who you get it through.
Well, it says have to go. Client is switching to Comcast and they can't figure out why the internet doesn't work. Good luck with that. I've been there. 100%. And Brent says there's a lock pad on those outside, power boxes, but nobody locks the breaker box. Why? It just seems like a bad idea. So appreciate everybody for chiming in today. It's kind of like a real low-key day, just talking about current events. Again, Channel Strong Tour. If you're on the East Coast, Northeast, come on out. We'd love to see you. We will be in the Southwest in September. So people like Keith, Brent, come out and hang out a little bit once we're in there.
Definitely will. Definitely
be in your backyard at the end of September. For everyone else, have a great day. Keep in touch Tuesdays, Thursdays, 1:00 Eastern time, and online at mspinitiative.com under sessions. We have all of these recorded there. Thanks, everyone, and catch you next time.
Okay, great. Thanks.